Hi, I'm Nino Gonzalez, and welcome to another episode of Making Sense. Well, today I have a guest from Project Bravo, and welcome, Laura, here to the show. And you know, first of all, let's introduce yourself to the community and tell them your role with Project Bravo and what is it that you do.
Sure. I'm Laura Ponce, and I'm the Executive Director for Project Bravo. And Project Bravo is a nonprofit organization that's been around El Paso for over 50 years.
Right.
We were formed during the 1960s War on Poverty. And so our focus has been to help to empower people in this community so that they can stabilize their situation and hopefully get out of poverty.
And how long have you been the executive director for the organization?
It's going to be 7 years this November.
Okay. And so, I've always seen Project Bravo within the community, but I don't really know what they do. I know it's an organization that helps the community, but can you elaborate to the public? Because I think I might not be the only one who doesn't know the good things that Project Bravo does.
Okay. Well, we are part of a nationwide network of community action organizations.
Okay.
And so as a community action agency, what we do is that we tailor programs and services to our community, to the needs that are here, so that we can hopefully make an impact in the community and help people to get out of poverty. And so we constantly, I would say, are monitoring what are the needs in the community.
Right.
And tailoring our programs to those needs. So needs that we had 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago
Are not appropriate today.
Exactly, because we're constantly looking at our community, assessing how our clients are doing, assessing what funding is out there, and then in the end, we put all that information together, and with the leadership of our board, we come up with programs and services for our community.
Can you go maybe over some example of some of the programs and services you've done in the past?
Sure. Well, a lot of people may not know that Project Bravo started Head Start in El Paso.
Wow.
And so most community action agencies started Head Start.
Okay.
Also, legal aid comes from community
Yes,
action.
I did know about that one.
So there's all sorts of programs and services where community action is the incubator, and sometimes these programs, they spin off
Right.
and become their own thing, and sometimes they stay within the organization. And so currently, most people will know us because of our utility assistance program.
Okay.
So we have a program where we help people who are low income to get assistance either when they have a crisis, like for example, a disconnection notice,
Sure.
or that we have another program where we can teach them how to budget, teach them how to save energy, and then they're eligible for either 6 or 8 payments for the calendar year.
Oh, wow.
And so that's probably our most popular program.
And so with this, these programs, you actually work with the utility companies to help these individuals, correct?
Yes, well, we have funding and we pay the electric or the gas bill or propane.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have contracts with our local utility companies to be able to provide that service, stop the disconnection immediately, and help the client to stabilize their situation.
And where does your funding come from? From grants and governmental assistance as well?
Yes, this is actually funding that comes from a federal grant.
Right.
And this grant, really the focus, a lot of people will say, well, why are we helping people with their utilities? What a lot of people don't realize is that when you're very poor, because this program is only for people who are in poverty and are at a certain income level.
Right.
When you're very poor and you get your check, whether it's your Social Security check or your unemployment check,
Right.
or the very little money you were able to make in a job that isn't
Maybe
enough for
pays
you.
minimum wage, or
Exactly.
you're working part-time.
And you have a big family to
Right.
take care of. So the first thing that you do is you take care of the rent. And then the next thing you do is you get some food. And then sometimes there's no money left for utilities.
Right.
And so people just kind of have this thing where they shuffle their funds around and try to keep this utility on and try to keep that utility on. Meanwhile, if it's very hot or very cold, it's a very unhealthy situation for the family. If it's too hot, or if it's too cold, people end up in the hospital.
Sure.
Or for little kids, if their parents are saying don't turn on the lights, go
the
straight to
learning
bed.
environment, and they don't do well
Exactly.
in school.
Exactly, they can't do their homework.
Right.
And so this is funding that the government provides to help these households so that they can have a healthy living environment for their families.
Well, the organization has been around, you mentioned, for many years. Has that federal funding, through courses of administrations, increased, decreased?
It fluctuates.
It fluctuates.
It fluctuates. And what we really, we're very thankful that at least nationwide,
Right.
Community action has been around for a very long time, and part of the reason is the fact that there's local control of that funding. So our board of directors, which is made up of elected officials, made up of citizens, private citizens, and made up of people that are democratically elected.
Right.
And so those individuals really lead the organization and say, these are the needs that we've identified in the community, and this is how we're going to spend the funding.
Right.
And so because of that local control, there's bipartisan support up in the federal level through Congress for community action.
Well, that's good. And one of the purposes of this show is to try and educate individuals at the local level about financial literacy. And you mentioned something about you do have budgeting as part of your program for individuals. And are these programs only for certain individuals, or is it open to anybody?
Well, for utility assistance, our budgeting
Right.
classes are solely for people who are low income.
Right.
And in that group, what we try to do is identify people that may qualify for other programs and services. So when people come to the budgeting classes and we see that they're engaged and we see that they're really trying to work hard for their families and trying to better the situation, very often, or we see that they need a job, we lead them to other programs that we have, because we do have a case management program that can help people support them in their education and job training and trying to get a job. We ask them questions about kind of what are their dreams, what is it that they want to accomplish, and very often they'll say, I want to own my own house.
Right.
So we actually have a housing counseling program where we can help people through all the different stages, the stages of first budget, learning how to budget
Right.
more in detail. And this program, it's available to our clients, but it's actually available to the public too.
Okay. The home ownership workshop.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And so what a lot of people don't realize that first-time home buyers counseling is very, very important.
Right.
A lot of people say, well, if I just save enough money for a down payment, it's going to be fine. But the problem is that they haven't really thought through
Right.
all of the different expenses that are going to happen when you own a home.
And how much of a home you
Exactly.
can also afford.
And really, the way that the system is set up, everybody's pushing you to spend more than you
Sure.
should.
Yeah.
So the banks want a bigger loan, and I'm not saying anything bad about the banks, but it's human nature. It's like, we want people to maximize, the home
Right.
that they have. The realtors want you to get a good size home.
But I think, we've seen so many downfalls because we sort of take on a house that we can't afford because of those situations, and we've seen what happened with a housing crisis.
Yes.
Or even with automobiles,
Yes.
where you're pushed into an automobile that you really can't afford,
Yes.
and they make it affordable by stretching those payments maybe for 7 or 8 years.
Yes, yes.
And we'll get you into that $30,000 car.
Exactly, exactly. And what really first-time homebuyer counseling is that you have a person that talks to you. First, you get a class where you're in with a group,
Right.
and you learn some of the fundamentals about home ownership and personal budgeting. But then you actually get to talk to a counselor one-on-one, and they look at your finances, they look at your credit, and they say, these are some of the things, some of the opportunities you have to save more money, to make more money.
Right.
So that you could build up your income and build up your savings. These are some of the programs that are available that can actually give you some money so that you can put together your down payment
Right.
and closing costs.
And also, as I'm aware, depending on if you pick a certain area of the city, there's also some funding there,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
For a homeowner.
Yes, and we explain all the different types of options that they have.
Right.
And it's a person who we're not going to make any money out of this. So in other words, we get a set rate from one of our grantors, the city of El Paso, to help people through this process. It doesn't matter how big or how small the home is. What we want is we want to educate the client so that they can buy a home that's affordable to them, that's in an area that's going to be healthy for them and their family, and that they'll be able to pay it off even if there's some fluctuation of income in the household.
And let's talk about, you were talking about this one-on-one counseling and taking a look at the credit report. Sometimes they might not even be aware that there's a credit report, or there's differences between each report from each of the bureaus, or
Yes.
what is it that they need. Maybe right now is not the time, but what is it that they need to correct
Yes.
or improve.
Yes. And credit is such a complicated issue,
Right.
but there are strategies that people can take to build up their credit. For example, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day that they didn't realize that, her son is very young. He just turned 18,
Right.
and she's really contemplating whether or not he should have a credit card.
Hmm.
And so, one of the things that people don't realize is that you can't build credit
Without credit.
without credit. So, in other words, you have to demonstrate.
It's like a necessary evil.
Exactly. You have to demonstrate that you can be responsible with credit and that you pay it off
Right.
every month. And so, in other words, her strategy was, I think that he shouldn't touch it. And really the strategy should be is that you need to educate the person on what this means and how it's important to pay your credit cards on time and do your best to not even pay fees and pay them off in the first payment.
And use credit wisely
Exactly.
to help you. But
So
there's
that-
so misuse of it.
Exactly. So that when the time comes when he wants to buy a car or he wants to buy a house, that his credit score will be sufficient enough that he gets the lowest rate possible.
And that's one of the things that I've touched here in the show is because we're dealing here with a lot of college students who don't have any credit, and one of the questions as a instructor here at the college is that I get asked, and some of the things that I've addressed on the show is, what's the best way to start building my credit if I don't have anything, and so that's a very good point that you made out, and we can't be without it, because eventually you're going to want to finance a
Yes.
car unless you can pay it off in cash,
Yes.
which would be wonderful, but then bigger things such as a house.
Exactly. And really, all it is a demonstration to other lenders that you are a responsible person and that you pay your bills on
Right.
time, and that you don't have a whole bunch of debt.
Right, and that you're not extending your limits or
Exactly.
overspending, based on the credit that you have.
Yes, and so that's one of the strategies. We'll see a client that they've never had a credit card in their life, they've never had
Right.
debt. They come in, and yes, they have savings, but they might not get the best interest rate
Sure.
because they haven't demonstrated that they're responsible according to
So they
the
might
credit
have
score.
to wait, a few years to
Exactly.
build up that credit, so they're in a better position to get a better rate.
Yes, and really, having a good rate makes a huge difference. It could be tens of thousands of dollars over the 15 years or 30 years that you have a mortgage.
What is and we're hearing that the Federal Reserve might be thinking of raising rates, and so rates have been going up, and
Yes.
so what now would be an appropriate rate for a home buyer?
To be honest, that's
Right.
actually something that you would ask the credit counselor.
Right.
And so that's really her area of expertise. But what I would say is that, it's really hard to time a market.
Right.
And the best that you could do is that, you get the best rate at the moment when you buy your house, and that you have enough in savings to put down a good down payment,
Right.
so that you end up with a payment that you can afford and that your household can afford.
Sure.
So you might anticipate, well, maybe in a couple of years we're going to have a child. Maybe my spouse isn't going to work for a little bit. Will we be able to afford this house
Sure.
in 5 years or 10 years when we're having a child, and we have a little bit less income?
Sure.
So in other words, you need to be thinking ahead, and looking at a payment that's affordable now and affordable in 5 years and affordable in 10 years.
Sure. Definitely. Well, we'll come back and talk more about the programs that Project Bravo does with Laura, and we'll see you on the second half of Making Sense, so please stay tuned. Welcome to the second half of Making Sense, and I've been talking here with the Executive Director of Project Bravo, Laura Ponce, and we were talking about the process that you go in educating people about the home buying process, and a lot of these individuals maybe have never even seen their credit report, and maybe there's errors in there that accounts that don't belong to them or discrepancies that they didn't know they could fix.
Correct, and it's really amazing how many people are affected by people stealing their identity
Right.
and using their credit. There's even reports of children
Sure.
having their credit stolen. So one of the things that we do recommend is for people to not only check out their own credit, but check out the credit of their children.
Right.
Because there's been accounts of people stealing the identities. They figure out the social security number
Right.
that could belong to the child, and in some way they get their information. And by the time this child is 18, they may be tens of thousands of dollars in
Right.
debt, and their credit totally ruined
Well-
even before they even
well,
had a chance to use it.
You know, it really doesn't help that one of the major credit bureaus was hacked and all that information was leaked.
Yes.
But in a lot of those situations also is especially with children, I've seen that a lot of the perpetrators have been family members
Exactly.
that have
Yes,
access to that
exactly.
information.
And so, I mean, sometimes it's an uncle or aunt who
Right.
steals their information. Sometimes it's the parent themselves who they've extended their credit and they do that to their children.
Yes.
But that's a completely
I know,
different
that's
topic for another day. We could
But-
go on and
right.
on that.
So what happens when an individual or a family goes through this home buying workshop and process? I hear they get something at the end that will help them, correct?
Yes. And so people have to commit to, I think it's about 10 hours of education. And at the end, education and counseling. And at the end, they'll get a certificate that makes them eligible for first-time homebuyer programs, not just through the city of El Paso, but through some of the banks that we have partnerships with here locally. And so with that certificate, what they've shown and demonstrated is that, you know, they've done the work to educate themselves about owning a home and being responsible homeowners, and paying their mortgage on a timely basis, and knowing the importance of paying their mortgage
and
on
creating a
time.
budget.
Exactly, and creating a budget and making sure that there's always money and in their budget for their mortgage.
Right.
And also making sure that whatever that payment is a sustainable payment, that they're going to be able to sustain for a while, up until the end of the loan. And so with this certificate, there's a lot of opportunities for extra funding, so that, you know, with that extra down payment assistance or assistance with the closing costs.
Maybe there could be some match, or they
Exactly.
cover the closing costs.
Exactly.
And-
And really, with the city program, it's for people with median incomes.
Right.
And so what their strategy is that there's actually a lot of opportunity for people to get a mortgage that is equal to the level of what they're paying in rent. And so, you know, what they're trying to do is help this group of people that are kind of at a median income level. They're not necessarily in poverty because they do
Right.
have jobs, you know, and they may not have jobs that pay them a whole bunch, you know, but it's enough for them to pay rent.
Right.
And so why pay rent to somebody else?
When you can establish home ownership.
Exactly.
Right. And does this certificate also might help them with the rate that they might get on their mortgage?
Well, that's not really a guarantee.
Right.
But because if they've done the work that we've given them, which is, you know, to look at their credit report and make sure that they take out any discrepancies, that they build up their credit score, and that they've built a budget, and they've saved, then that really is what's going to help them to get the best rate possible.
Right. And so in these classes, do you also talk about the different type of mortgages, such as, you know, an adjustable rate mortgage or a
Yes.
fixed rate mortgage?
Yes, we do. And we try to get them familiar with the different type of products that they're going to be
And the
offered.
terminology?
Exactly, and the terminology. So that when they go in, and also that they have to shop around,
Right.
and they have that option. Some people think it's like, well, all my money is at Bank X, so I guess that's
I
where
gotta
I'm
stick
going
with them, right.
that's where I'm going to get my mortgage. Well, Bank X may be a great bank for your savings.
Not be giving you the best deal.
Exactly. And so there might be another bank that has a better rate, that has better terms for you, and that's maybe where you need
Or
to put
maybe
your
even possibly a credit union.
exactly.
Right.
And so that's that we try to make sure that we teach people how to shop around and demand, you know, the best rate, and because it really is a big decision, and 1 percentage point can mean tens of thousands of dollars as savings
Sure.
over the 15 or 30 years that they pay off their mortgage.
And what other programs does Project Bravo offer other than this, you know, home buyer workshop?
Well, actually, we are also able to help people who they're having trouble with their mortgage, because, for example, a very typical client for this program, the homeowner, the housing counseling program, is a person who had a job that
Right.
paid them so much, and then they got laid off.
Right.
and now they got another job, but that job doesn't pay them as well because they had to start at a lower rate. And so they had a mortgage that was, set for that other income level, and it's not there anymore. They have some equity, they're struggling to make their mortgage payment, and we can help them to restructure that mortgage so that they can be more affordable, especially if they have some equity in there.
Right.
It's very possible to get the bank to agree to change the terms of their.
So maybe, hopefully, maybe a refinance, correct?
Exactly, refinance it so that their payment is at a more a proper level for their income at this moment.
Right.
And for that, there's a lot of people that go to lawyers,
Right.
and they give them $5,000, and then the lawyer doesn't do very much because they don't really have the experience
Sure.
that we have.
And also, I guess sometimes when you get in that situation, you might get desperate, and you talk about they might not even know what that lawyer is doing, and that they might be doing some debt restructuring and in the form of a bankruptcy.
Exactly, and that's because really that's the tool that the lawyers have, which
Right.
is one, kind of threaten they're the people that they owe money to, in the hopes that there'll be some debt forgiveness, and then also do a bankruptcy,
Right.
which really can affect the person for the next 7 years or more,
Yes.
because those are the tools that an attorney have. But what we have is that we actually have relationships with the banks, and if we can demonstrate this is a good homeowner, this person was very consistent. Right now, they have a new job, and the job doesn't pay them what they did before, what they made before, and can we restructure this? And if the person comes in early enough, as soon as they realize this new income isn't going to work,
Right.
then there's a lot that we can do to save the house.
Well, usually there's, one of those things that's going to put individuals and families in financial distress is the loss of a job,
Yes,
divorce,
yes,
or a major illness.
yes, yes. And those are really the biggest reasons people have for declaring
Right.
bankruptcy, because there's such a huge change in their income, and they haven't restructured their life and all the expenses
To meet that.
to meet that change.
Right. And so, do you all have a upcoming workshop that's coming
Yes.
in the future? Can you talk about that?
Sure. In April, we're going to have workshops for first-time home buyers. And so people need to call to get the dates and the times, but they will be on Saturday, and one workshop will be in English and one workshop will be in Spanish. But if they call our main number, 562-4100, during the Monday through Friday working hours, 8 to 5,
Right.
and say that they want to sign up for the first-time home buyers workshop, then we can give them the date and time of the workshop.
And is there any cost to the individuals that attend this?
No, there is no cost.
No. Okay.
Once they become a client, there are some costs, very, very minimal cost sliding scale for maybe to get the credit report,
Sure.
or for some of the copying that has to be done. But pretty much is very minimal.
Right.
You're not gonna you don't need to pay us $5,000.
And this workshop is open to anybody, correct?
Yes.
This is not. There's no income limit
No.
restriction. Okay.
And really, if you have the dream of owning a home, it may not be something that you want, you think you can accomplish right now, but maybe it's 2 years down the line or 5 years down the line. It's never too early to start planning, because there's a lot of things that you could set in motion so that when you're ready in 2 years or 5 years, everything is great. Your credit score is in a really good place.
You have a good down payment.
You have a good down payment. You have a good budget, and your family is all in order, and they're doing well with their expenses,
Right.
and not going crazy eating out. And so there's a lot that you can do in that time that will set you up so that you can have your dream home, and it'll be an affordable home, and it'll hopefully give you that security of being a homeowner.
And what other programs do you have upcoming other than the homeowner buyer workshop?
Well, we have other programs and services at Project Bravo. People may not know that we have a patient assistance program.
Oh.
This is also something that's available, but people who are low income.
Right.
And what it is that we have a person that specializes in learning about all the either free or discount programs for prescriptions or eyeglasses
wow.
or dental
Okay.
care. And so what she does is that if people have a medical need, she tries to find some type of resource that is free or very low cost to them.
Right.
And some of these programs, for example, for prescription assistance programs, these are applications that are 9 pages long, very complicated.
Right.
The average person can't really fill them out. And she sits there and she helps the person fill it out. She helps them to get the proper documentation from their doctor. She submits it to the pharmaceutical company, and people get free prescriptions.
Oh, wow.
And we've had people that, for example, we had a woman once who she had a chemotherapy drug that she needed to take.
And those are very expensive.
It would have
Right.
cost her $1,000 out of pocket every month, and she was able to get it for free.
Oh, wow. And other than the patient assistance, the utility assistance, the homeowners buyers workshop, any other programs that you're involved in?
As I mentioned, the case management,
Oh,
and those are
yes.
for people that want to get out of poverty.
Okay.
And so we can help them with tuition assistance, with help paying for uniforms, help writing their resume, help paying for licensing exams. And so we can help them with a lot, but they have to demonstrate that they are trying to get out of poverty. So it's
Right.
not,
and
they
that
show.
they're on a path of
Exactly.
hopefully, maybe they've already started the education and they
Exactly.
need help in completing that, correct?
Exactly. And so you do have to demonstrate that you're a good candidate for this program, so that you can take advantage of the resources that are available to those individuals. Another program that's very popular is our weatherization program. And with the weatherization program, we make homes more energy
Oh,
efficient.
wow.
And so that is a program for people that are low income. And what we try to do is focus on people that are on a fixed income.
Right.
So people that are on Social Security or disability. And the reason for that is that these people, their income's not going to go up very much
Right.
over
and
the
they
years.
don't have the money to properly weatherize their home, correct?
Exactly. And so when we weatherize the house, their utility bills go down if they don't increase their energy
Right.
use, because that's another part is that we educate them of, okay, now that now that your utility bills go down doesn't mean that you can
Right.
leave all the lights on, because then that defeats the
Yeah.
purpose. But it helps the home to be more energy efficient, so it's cooler in the summers and warmer in the winter. We have a lot of success stories from families telling us that their house used to be so cold and they used to get sick all
Right.
the time, and now it's at a comfortable temperature and their
Well,
utility bills are not out the roof.
Can you share at least, one story of success of a family or an individual that you helped with one of these programs and how they're doing now?
Gosh, we have so many success stories. It's really hard to say,
Right.
but I do know that we've had a lot of people that, for example, we had a person who she came to get her GED. We also have free GED classes.
Oh, wow.
And so she had the dream of having her own daycare. But people don't realize that in part of the licensing process is that you have to have a high school diploma or a GED. And so this individual, took our GED class, was able to complete it within 6 months, and we gave her a scholarship to take the test.
Oh, my goodness.
And so then she was able to start her business, which was running a daycare, and be self-sufficient.
Wow, what a wonderful story. Well, thank you, Laura, for being here on this episode of Making Sense and taking time of your busy schedule and educating the community of what wonderful things Project Bravo is doing.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
very
having
much.
me.
And we'll see you next time on another episode of Making Sense. Goodbye.